and welcome to the gallery. I hope you've got your glass of wine or mug of tea or your pint ready with you as we consider the 2018 Korean film Sunset in My Hometown. This is the story of our male lead, Hak-soo, a guy struggling to break into the rap music scene, but he's also a guy stuck in a problem with his past. This is also a love story, and I see elements here that echo the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale. Our female lead, Sunmi, loves Hak-soo, but not because of any particular merits he possesses. In fact, her love is almost in spite of his current gruff and repellent self. But she wants to see him be freed from the spell or dark cloud he is under. She is essential to the transformation and growth needed for our male lead to see accurately both his present unhappy self and the potential better version of himself. One of the things I like about this story is its relational redemptive arc. We've got a group of flawed human beings in some hurtful relational patterns, but there's hope because they don't just stay that way. There's movement and growth and reconciliation in various little ways. Another thing about this movie that keeps drawing me back to it is that it all revolves around poetry. There's the original poem our protagonist wrote as a young man in school, and then there's also all the poetry going on in the lyrics of his rap songs. Now, I think there are a few things worth noting about this film. First, the actor playing our male lead actually worked on rap for a year and wrote lyrics for the rap songs used in the movie. That's impressive. And all that hard work helps make for a well-acted, believable character. The second thing that might be helpful to note is that the swearing language is pretty harsh for the majority of the movie. My daughter is of the opinion that this is overkill. And she's probably more sensitive to it all because she speaks Korean. While I don't relish the cursing, I can see how it fits with the plot and overall tone, with a gradual softening from anger and invective to forgiveness and personal peace. The theme quote for my analysis comes from the preface to the fantasy novel The Great Divorce, a book that includes meditations on heaven, hell, and the human soul. This is actually a quote within a quote. These are words from the marvelous mind of C.S. Lewis, the author of The Great Divorce, but Lewis also quotes here from the poet John Milton right at the end. Here's the quote. I do not think that all who choose wrong roads perish, but their rescue consists in being put back on the right road. Some can be put right, but only by going back till you find the error and working it afresh from that point, never by simply going on. Evil can be undone, but it cannot develop into good. Time does not heal it. The spell must be unwound bit by bit with backward mutters of dissevering power, or else not. Like the beast in the fairy tale, our male lead needs to be freed from the curse he is under. But first he must return to his roots and face the problem from his past before he can move forward with his life and love again and be loved too. Now I've got some theme-related images from the movie to share with you all. Remember, as I explained in my channel overview, there are going to be spoilers here because that's the nature of my analysis. When we enter into Hak-soo's life, he has perhaps an undesirable reputation. He's failed at 6 different seasons of a rap competition television show. He has a pattern of doing well and making it to a certain point and then choking. Something holds him back. In this latest attempt, he is asked by the judges to improvise a rap on the spot with the key word mother. His reaction to this is visceral, and the painful struggle we see in his whole being is palpable. He begins to rap, but then he falters and hits a raw emotional wall. We eventually come to see that he's angry, using vitriolic language, but it's all directed toward his dad. He harbors a grudge toward his father and won't forgive him. His mom was sick for a long time and died of cancer. His dad was a gangster boss, sometimes in jail, and just wasn't there for Hak-soo and his mom, even skipping out on the mom's funeral. Not only was our male lead essentially abandoned by his dad, but he also grew up with the stigma of being a thug's kid. So he pretends he is from Seoul whenever his hometown accent is noticed by others, and he says he wants to get as far away from his hometown as possible. He may wish to erase it, just like the theme quote says. He's got to go back, though, and rework the sum and put it right. He has to go back to his hometown to face the man he hates and blames for his mother's unhappiness. Our female lead, a former high school classmate, calls him from the hospital to tell him, "Your father had a stroke." His initial response is, "What do you expect me to do?" And even after he arrives at the hospital and sees that his father looks apparently as though nothing is wrong with him, he says coldly, "Don't call me until he's in a grave." Here is the moment of calling him back to the beginning, to his roots, back to his hometown he left 10 years ago, where things started to unravel for him, back to painful memories, but also back to a girl he overlooked and whom he has forgotten and doesn't even recognize when he first sees her again, but who now remembers things for him and tries to help him recall what used to bring him joy and the kind of writing he's capable of. A girl who knew him best and loves him best, even now. Back to the buried memory of himself as a young man playing guitar and singing to his classmates. His former self winning a national poetry contest, writing honestly and about soul-deep things. Back to the birth of his poem about the sunset. Sunmi knows that in order to move forward in his life and have peace, Haksu must be able to deal with the hatred festering inside himself and forgive his father. His father has apologized and asked for forgiveness from his son, but so far our male lead will have none of it. When challenged by Sunmi on this, he retorts, "What do you know?" She responds, "You think your rap contains your soul and the truth?" In exasperation, she wisely resorts to speaking to him in his own language. Here, she marches into the karaoke room and chooses a song to rap at him. And her angry, emotional delivery and all the lyrics send a very pointed message to him. He's been pretty dismissive of her up to this point in the film, with only fleeting moments of curiosity, but now she clearly has his attention for the first time. A little later, she delivers these hard words to him. "You're a coward. You only see yourself. How long will you avoid everything? You don't look ahead. You'll never make it as a rapper. You're no different than your father." Her rebuke is absolutely stinging, but it seems like this is what it takes to reach him. Here I think we are given a nice visual on the reversal that has finally just taken place in their relationship. Our male lead now follows behind Sunmi, cautiously at a distance, but with determination, almost as though he's latched onto the light that he's finally realized he needs to lead him out of his dark place. And it's like his eyes have finally been opened. He sees himself and his situation more clearly, and he's curious about Sunmi and begins to read the novel she's written about their hometown. Later, the two of them talk, and Sunmi explains how in high school she saw him sitting on the hillside by his mother's grave, staring at the sunset and writing his poem. She says to him, "The one who made me discover the sunset was you. I've seen sunsets countless times while living here, but I've never seen it like that before. It's majestic, but also pretty. Pretty, but also so sad. If something so sad can be so beautiful, I thought it wouldn't be sad anymore. And I wondered how long you've been staring at it from the grave. I started liking sunsets from that day and decided to become a writer. So when you first stepped into the hospital room, my heart skipped a beat, but you turned out to be a disgusting soul. Don't be like that. That's being disrespectful to yourself and to your hometown." This is the important scene right before Haksu, by his own intentional choice, will directly confront a piece of his past. More on that in just a moment. It's significant that our female lead is right there beside him. Before his moment of bravery, he says to her, "Do you know why I liked the sunset? The sky above the horizon, it's completely bare without it, but the sunset fills up the sky. I love that." I think Haksu has come to see Sunmi for who she is, someone like the sunset, entering his life bleak with grief and filling it up with light and warmth. This is the Mudflats reckoning. Haksu will now face what I see in the movie as an embodiment of his past, both his own mistakes and also a representation of his father and the shadow of that unhappy relationship that still hangs over our male lead. His former classmate, a guy our male lead tormented and bullied as a kid, regretfully, and also a guy who has now become a gangster and is in return bullying him. When Haksu's dad first finds out about his son's indebtedness to this gangster, he's horrified and says, "You plan on living like me? You call that a payback? Living a good life would be a proper payback." And his dad basically says, "Stop running away and confront things." After they've utterly exhausted themselves fighting each other for hours and have reached a sort of respectable stalemate, I guess, our male lead apologizes for what he did as a kid. Later on in the movie, in an echo of this scene, Haksu is finally able to reach the ground zero of his problem, undo the spell, and extend forgiveness to his father. And he determines to get the best revenge of all by living a good life. After the fight, they both go back to the grave on the hillside to see the sunset together. Sunmi returns his high school writing notebook to him, the one with the words on the cover, "Rap is my life," the one she stole back for him after his teacher had first stolen it from Haksu and plagiarized it. Sunmi says here, "When I held this notebook by my sunset teacher, my heart fluttered. I wanted to give it back, but it would have been wasted on a lost soul, so I didn't." After a pause, Haksu responds, "I didn't want to return home like this. Ever heard of the returning home in glory complex? Men who leave home have that. It's pretty bad, in my case." Sunmi recites his poem aloud as they sit together. The poem, entitled "Abandoned Harbor," goes like this. "My hometown is an abandoned harbor, a poor town, where sunset is always free." In a while, she says, "Haksu, doesn't the sunset feel as though it's covering you in silk?" And a little later, when he sees her with eyes closed and lips puckered, he says to her, "What are you doing?" She replies, "Kissing the sunset." And he teases, "You like it?" She responds, laughing, "You try it." Then she adds a little later, "If your southern dialect remains, you still have a piece of truth of hometown in you." Now, after our male lead gets a special fan vote callback for that rap competition show, we get this beautiful resolution to his story by hearing his heartfelt, authentic voice again in the lyrics to his song. Here they are. "Can't carve out the vivid memory, losing something I lack, regretting what I could not pay back. Wouldn't want to be like him, but with his absence, his lasting words became the title of my untitled life. Sitting by the grave, the kid marked a comma on his past, and using your will as an excuse, he started anew. A good life is the best payback. Just watch me then, filling in the rest of the notebook, leaving behind the sunset of my hometown, evaporating memories with a long sigh, but the nostalgia remains, never gone for good. The town where the sun sets, father's line between light and dark, had to turn my back on him where we made dry peace. Reflecting on our time away, I write these lyrics from an abandoned harbor where the sunset is always free, leaving the next step blank. Surviving the long winter, the stranger in the mirror is like a boat without a skipper, lingering waves rusting it away, hard salt on dried sweat spots. Why was it abandoned? What's important is how I always avoided everything. See no evil, hear no evil, don't trust anyone. But I couldn't hate the one who made me look straight. Resembling the one in heaven, resembling the one alive, she's the light that shines the darkness within. Even shattered souls shine when light is shown. How was I so blind? My heart could not say. Status quo, in effect. I won't make excuses, but my heart was poor, with only scars to show. Never received the love, didn't have love to give. I'm sorry if your feelings from 12 years ago still remain intact. I will love you and love the way I love you. Then Haksu stops to speak and deliver some words into the mic to Sunmi directly as she is cheering him on in the audience. He says to her, "There's so much I want to say, but it's hard to do it in 16 measures." This was perhaps the most epic celebratory wedding dance scene that I've watched in a movie to date. This is a spoiler for sure, yes, but any of you who maybe didn't yet see the movie were duly warned at the beginning of my video, because I knew I couldn't overlook this ending. We get fittingly joyful marriage festivities, including tap dancing by our male lead, and it all happens in their hometown, surrounded by friends and family. As I put together this analysis, it just kind of dawned on me, no pun intended, that in this scene we get a reference to that earlier playful conversation between the two of them as they watch the sunset on the hillside. In other words, we get Haksu kissing the sunset. I think it's pretty clear from his rap lyrics and from the conversation they had right before the Mudflats fight that Haksu views Sunmi as light, filling up his sky. Well done, filmmakers. I love it. Because just like in the words of Haksu's poem, isn't that how real love comes to us? As grace, undeserved and free. The theme music for my analysis was an easy, obvious choice. It's that rap entitled Sunset from the movie's soundtrack. I appreciate rap whenever it's joining hands with good poetry, and I think that's the case here. I've already shared the lyrics to this song, so I hope you'll enjoy listening to it on your own. You can use the link I provided down below in the description. Thank you for your company here in the gallery for this moment of contemplation. And now, as we go on our way, let's do our best to stay awake to gather the beautiful.